Hey guys, happy Saturday. I am Aaron Bull. Thank you for joining me today. It is a beautiful day, and so I thank you for taking time out to join me in this video. Today I'm going to be talking about issues in the Black community. What are the issues? What can we do? What's going on? So let's get into it. All right. So first of all, before we get started, I want to give you some background. Sorry, I want to give you some background information. And I got my notes, so bear with me. I got a little cheat sheet because I got a couple of things that I want to cover, so I want to make sure that we get into those. But as we go along, please feel free to leave comments and make sure I can see your comments. All right, so please be sure to leave a comment, like the video. If you think it was helpful, useful, please share it. And don't forget to subscribe. So let's get into it. Let's get into some background information first and foremost. I don't know if you all are aware, but Sheila Jackson, a Democrat out of Texas, has introduced Bill HR 40. She actually introduced it in January, but it's kind of coming into it's a part of the conversation that's taking place today because you have some new, I guess, presidential candidates for. Hi, Queen Royalty. Thank you for joining me. But we have HR 40 that was introduced by Sheila Jackson in January. However, you have political candidates that are using it as part of their Black agenda for the upcoming race. So I wanted to give you a little background on that bill so that as you hear political candidates talking about HR 40, reparations and things like that, you know exactly what they are saying and what the agenda is behind that. So my goal is not to tell you how to vote, what to vote for, or whatever. I just want you to be clear. Number one, vote. And then number two, know exactly what you're voting for. Because in these days, we can no longer vote just based on political party or political affiliation. We really have to get into the policies and agendas of these candidates. And so let's get into it. Number one, let me just read the actual verbiage of what HR 40 is and give you a little background on that. And then we'll go into the other issues that the African American community is facing. So, Bill HR 40 was created to address the fundamental injustice, cruelty, brutality. Right, please don't vote based on headlines. Good point. But so HR 40 was created to address the fundamental injustice, cruelty, brutality, and inhumanity of slavery in the United States and the 13 American colonies between 1619 and 1865, and to establish a commission to study and consider a national apology and proposal for reparations for the institution of slavery, its subsequent de jure and de facto racial and economic discrimination against African Americans, and the impact of these forces on living African Americans, to make recommendations to the Congress on appropriate remedies and for other purposes. And it has been referred to the subcommittee on the Constitution, Civil Rights, and Civil Justice. Hi, sweetheart. Thank you for watching. So, just to give you background on what that means is that HR 40 is not a reparations bill. Some people will try and tell you that it is. It is strictly permission to conduct a formal study on the effects of slavery, Jim Crow, segregation, discrimination, and the current situation with the African American community. So just know that. So when you hear political candidates saying that they don't support it, that means that they're not even willing to have the conversation. Even if you are for or against reparations, be fair enough to let this conversation be had. Let the study be conducted. And then once the study is concluded and the results are produced, then you can determine if you are for or against reparations. But just off the muscle, you just can't dismiss the study, because it definitely is something that needs to be done. But let's continue. So, along with the introduction of Bill H.R. 40, you now have new conversations about this ADOS movement. And if you're not familiar with that, that is just a movement for the American descendants of slavery. And it is more or less, it's a hypothetical thing. It's just theory at this point. But you have a lot of people engaged in conversation concerning that, reparations and whatnot. And it is just unnecessary conflict. Everybody's arguing about whose movement it is, who created it, and who's responsible, and all of this, but nobody is really talking about the real issues. Thank you, sweetheart. No one is talking about the real issues as far as what we are really talking about. I mean, what we are really facing as African Americans. I mean, everybody's getting caught up in the reparations conversation as if that is the sole way that the African American community can be fixed. I think that we need to look internally, address our own issues, and do what we can to pull ourselves back up. Because sitting around waiting for reparations, that's not a guarantee. So we have to figure out how to build up our own community, because clearly right now not a lot of people are interested in giving us that help, but we are suffering. We are suffering. We are struggling. We are going through some real issues that we need to address in the here and now. We can't just sit around and wait for these reparations. And then especially when the reparation is going to be a process. It's going to be a study conducted and all of that, whatever. And it's going to be a bunch of back and forth. So this is how I position it, because from my standpoint, yes, we as African Americans are definitely owed reparations. Amends need to be made for the injustices and the egregious acts that have been experienced by our people. However, in your regular life, in your day-to-day life, if somebody owes you money, if somebody owes you a debt, you don't stop living. You don't stop taking care of yourself. You don't just sit around and wait for that person to pay you back. You do what you got to do to continue with your life, to better your life, to put yourself in a better position. And when that debt is repaid, it is then a bonus instead of your sole, solution to healing yourself financially, or I'm saying any other form like that. Basically, we can't just sit around waiting on the possibility of reparations to be paid, because even if, hypothetically speaking, what can the NAACP or ACLU, I'll get to that in just a minute. That's a good point. That is an excellent point. But in reference to reparations, we can't just sit around and wait for them to decide to bless us with the debt that they owe. And no matter what form of reparations it is, it's never going to be an accurate dollar amount. So we're going to move forward. I want to get into, let's see. So we talked about reparations. All right, so real quick, I'm going to run through the actual current issues facing the African American community. First and foremost, we already know about mass incarceration. We make up about 13.2% of the United States population as African Americans. However, we are the largest incarcerated community. Okay. Gang violence is up. Poverty is definitely a situation that we are facing in the African community, in the African American community. The wealth gap is ridiculous. Let's see, according to the New York Times, for every $100 in the white family wealth, African Americans hold just $5.04. And there are about 25% of African Americans that actually have no net worth or negative net worth. And just to get into actual math or business statistics, so your net worth is going to be your total assets, like your car, cash, money, whatever financial assets, anything that can be of monetary value, minus your liability. So once you take out whatever debts you owe, bills, and all of that stuff, that's your net worth. So Just know that, you know what I'm saying? So in the situation, and so it's 25% of African American community with negative or zero net worth versus about 10% of the white community. So that's definitely poverty and the wealth gap is a serious issue facing our community. Of course, drugs, serious issue. I think that's a widespread issue, but it is definitely an issue that continues to plague the African American community. And also, because of the drugs and the war on drugs that started in the 80s, that has subsequently led to mass incarceration. So if you look at it for what it is, the war on drugs was one of the most impactful things on criminalizing the African American community, because it made it legal to get rid of us, lock us up, I mean, and then we have the issues with police brutality, which, that's been a long standing situation. Of course, also there's the educational gap. Schools, race war on drugs was the way just to keep us enslaved physically and mentally. Indeed, good point. They refuse to address that. They are only concerned with the opioid epidemic. That is a fact. Because no one was concerned with getting African Americans off of crack in the 80s and 80s, when the crack era really took place. When crack was introduced into the African American community, they were more concerned with arresting the drug dealers versus healing the drug users. Now you have this opioid addiction, which is affecting the majority versus us, the minorities. So now we need to address the users of the drugs as opposed to the sellers of the drugs. So please be fair on that. Let's be fair. And as far as education, college degrees are no longer resulting in jobs the way that, when we were taught you go to school, you get a job. It's not happening. The majority of us, especially African Americans, are not even working in our field once we get our degrees. Me personally, I still owe about a good $60,000 for my college degree, which I'm not even using. So I think that we need to get our children into more of the trade schools and vocational schools and teach them trade skills that can give them entrepreneurial ability. Teach them to be entrepreneurs as opposed to preparing them to work for someone else. Single parent households. Of course, this is, let's see, we get degrees and work at Walmart. We owe $70,000. Indeed. Thank you so much, guys, for your comments. I definitely agree. Both of you all are making wonderful, good points. I appreciate you for participating in this. Thank you so much. But let's see, the single parent households. So the disintegration of family structures in the African American community has been a persistent problem for too long. We've got high out of wedlock birth rates, absent fathers, and lack of family support network, which have led to serious issues in our community. And also, let's make note of this. We are now at a point as the African American community where we are dying faster than we are reproducing. We are not having children as fast as we are leaving the earth. And that is not a good way to continue our lineage. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's a serious issue. And again, right now, I'm just talking about what the issues are, and we would definitely get into how to resolve those. So if you have any suggestions regarding that, please add that in the comments. Continuing the last couple points, of course, we have the unemployment rates, the police brutality, and then the systemic racism. So Now, let's get into some of the solutions for these issues that we are facing as an African American community. Um, Me personally, I would like to bring back or revamp what I call the old guards, the NAACPs, the ACLUs, and political organizations like the CBC, the Congressional Black Caucus. Yeah, we need to get back to having those organizations that really had our best interests at heart, places we could go to for guidance, direction, and definitely, I would like to see them get more involved in helping us reinvest into ourselves, helping us start our small business. And I don't mean just provide funding or things like that, but one of the issues, just as any small business, is not knowing how to start or where to start. And I think that we have, as a community, we have to start buying black. We have to get our black dollars to stay in the community. The average black dollar is stays in the community for about 6 hours. 6 hours before we send it to somebody else, to some other ethnicity, rather than supporting ourselves. I think that we have to revamp ourselves as a community, get back to what we know, and produce a good and quality product. I think that we need to just help each other to be better. Um, Definitely invest in each other and learn to network. One of the biggest, I guess, and most real issues out of everything that is facing the African American community is that we don't get along. We do not get along on a large scale. On a large scale. And for whatever reason, as far as these movements, there are a bunch of smaller movements that are taking place. But what happens is they are led by individual people as opposed to a committee. That's why I would like to either see the old committees like the NAACPs, the ACLUs revamped, and get back in touch with the community. Because the NAACPs and ACLUs that I know of, and first, let me pause. I'm not attacking or um, blaming NAACP or ACLUs or those organizations. Number one, those are the two biggest organizations that I know of. Those are the ones that like. I remember when the NAACP used to go and fight like every fight. You would see them, they were institutional in the Million Man March. They were going to the jails and fighting on behalf of innocent African Americans. I mean, in this day and age where you have the Trayvon Martins, the Sandra Blands, the Eric Gardners, Philando Castiles, um, Freddie Gray, you know what I'm saying? The list goes on, but where are these organizations? They used to be the face of the African American community. We used to be able to go to them for guidance, direction, assistance, and they would literally fight on our behalf. Like, I don't know. I mean, and even, they were created during the civil rights. That's what they were created for. And I didn't pull it up. I wanted to have the mission statement of the NAACP, but nevertheless, they were created to fight for our civil rights. You know what I'm saying? I remember Jesse Jackson and the push movement and all of that. You know what I'm saying? They just used to be like the root of the crux of the African American community. You know what I'm saying? Whatever we were fighting, they were fighting with us. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and I don't know if it's because they're using bullets now as opposed to, the water hoses. And I'm not, by any means saying that, they fought the easy fight, but where are you now? Where are you now? And I would love to be wrong. So if anybody could say, well, the NAACP is doing this, the ACLU is doing this, for the African American community as a whole, I would be more than happy. I would be glad to get on here and say, "Oh, well, I'm sorry, I misspoke, and these people, here's this what they're doing, and they're helping with this, and this is the initiative, and this, that, the third, or whatever." But where are they? Where are they? I mean, I don't. All I see is like NAACP Image Awards and things like that. And I'm not even being funny, guys. I'm really like, we as a people need a committee. So if you go back to like the ADOS movement and the conversations that are being had right now, you Today's version of the ADOS movement is being led by Antonia Moore and Yvette Carnell. And I'm involved with them on Twitter. And, I'm paying attention to what's going on. And I'm getting more involved in the politics of everything, especially things that are affecting the African American community. Let's see. The mission of the NAACP is to secure the political, educational, social, and economic equality of rights in order to eliminate race-based discrimination, and ensure the health and well-being of all persons. Exactly. Like, we still need them. We still need these organizations. And it's to the point where I don't even know like how to be involved. I did some research and I looked for my local branch, but it hasn't even been active for like 2 years. They just have a website with irrelevant, outdated information. I do follow the NAACP on Twitter. As of right now, I'm just seeing, electing people for the image awards and whatnot. But what image? What is our image? You know what I'm saying? Can we fix that? Can we get into the reality? Can we get into the community? You know what I'm saying? Where are these? Where are these people? And even like the Black Panther parties, you know what I'm saying? Like, the moral of the story is we need organization. We need organizations that we can go to, participate in, and help heal ourselves. We cannot sit here and act like somebody else is going to do it for us, because they're not. It's going to be up to us. And we can't sit here and act like, oh, we can't take care of ourselves. We can't do anything. Baby, Black people are some of the most talented and intelligent people on the planet. And, even in the reparations fight, one of the biggest claims is that this country was built on the back of African Americans, and that wasn't just physical labor. You know what I'm saying? You have African Americans that invented things that bettered the country and the world. You know what I'm saying? GPS, which is the current technology, but you're saying you traffic lights, lawnmowers, you know what we've done. You know what we've done. You think that, and you're talking about a race of people that it was illegal for them to read. So they didn't even know there were no instructions. They weren't reading instructions. They were using their mind and their physical muscle to figure this thing out, to make it work. So let's be clear on that. Let's not sleep on us. Let's start taking care of us, because it's going to be on us to heal ourselves before anybody else. And certainly if we can't come together as a community, nobody's going to take us seriously. You know what I'm saying? And I'll put it like this. When it comes to, waiting around for reparations and whatnot, if you have 2 kids, a boy and a girl, and they're always fighting, but they're both talking about, well, Mom, Dad, we want a PlayStation 4. Why am I going to give you a PlayStation 4, which is just going to be something else for y'all to fight over? But if your children start acting right, start acting like they like each other, start getting along, suddenly their chores start getting done, then you're like, well, okay, y'all can get a PlayStation 4. Now, pause. These reparations, number one, is theory. It's theory. HR 40 is the closest thing to tangible admission of this, you know what I'm saying, as far as getting to reparations and whatnot. However, I lost my whole train of thought. I'm gonna read these comments. I'm sorry. I was going in too. Let's see. There are 3 of us here. Let's get it started. Seriously, because this is what I love. I am down with that, Queen Royalty. Let's see. Verlin Willis says, I am here because he's a Black male and know how we are looked at, period. Indeed. Tighten up. Okay, I'm sorry. All right, so Queen Royalty. First of all, where are you from? And these are the point of this whole video. The point of this whole video is to galvanize ourselves and make us look at ourselves. You know what I'm saying? We have to heal ourselves, people. We really do. And we have the ability. We have the talent to do that. We can't sit here and act like we're just so helpless and whatnot. Now, we are at a great disadvantage. We have been put at a great disadvantage. You know what I'm saying? But we as a people have what it takes to fix ourselves. And if we take care of ourselves, then we can stop being dependent on anyone else. And again, what I'm saying to us is just let us take care of us on all facets, on all fronts. It's not about, shunning anybody else or excluding, but it's just self-healing. It's just self-healing. And, all of these people today, one of the things is, mental health, take care of yourself. It's okay to take care of yourself. Can we start taking care of ourselves? Really? And getting back to these movements, you've got people arguing over hypothetical reparations, but nobody's arguing over these solutions to the issues that are facing our Black community today. What are we going to do today? What are some options that we can do today? And as far as these people, so you have like Antonia Moore and Yvette Carnell, who are considering themselves as a spokespersons of this ADOS movement, which has been going on since like at least 1987 when NCOBRA was founded. That was the National Coalition of Reparations Committee or something like that. I forgot it. But just understand that when you get into these movements, they're being led by people. And the more people that get behind the movement that did, like say, Antonia Moore and Yvette Carnell, I'm not trying to attack them. I do appreciate them for bringing the conversation to the table. But this is our fight. This is not your fight. This is not her fight. This is ours. So how dare you sit up here and try and tell people who can participate in the conversation, who should speak and who should not? This is why we need a committee, a system of checks and balances to keep egos in check and keep our agenda on the forefront of it. That's what we need to be working on. Sanders said we don't need a check. No, we need more. We definitely need more than just a check. We need to get into a position to where we are leaving our children more than just a life insurance policy and debt, okay? Because like if I was to leave this earth right now, I don't have enough life insurance to cover the debt that I would leave behind. And that's just real. And that's a real thing. And that's part of the issue. Is that we are not in a position to even make any money, to save any money. We need to get into a position, reinvest in our community, come together as a community so that we as a community can start leaving our children and grandchildren and nieces and nephews generational wealth. The same way that those white children can pay to get into colleges that they are not even qualified to attend. I'm not going to touch that, but I'm going to leave that there. But, we need to be able to afford our children a better opportunity. And right now, with this economic situation that we are in, these financial straits that we are in, we are going to have to do something different. We have to really put egos aside, come up with, like I said, either revamp the NAACPs, the ACLUs, or create a new committee, a new organization, period, that is going to help us with a direction, keep us moving forward, keep these egos in check, allow us to have a movement that moves on a unified front as opposed to it being somebody's movement. Because anytime that we start getting numbers behind us as individuals, it's going to go to our head. It's going to be egos. Egos involved. So as a committee, of like 10 people or something like that, it would be a system of checks and balances, address the issues in a community and address them to like the political parties and whatnot, and apply the political pressure to get real results. And while we're talking about this ADOS movement, which, their goal is to try and get reparations and seek amends, whatever, for the injustice of slavery and whatnot. Okay, cool. But they're not producing anything, and they are shutting out individual factions of the African American community. How can you have an African American fight that you're excluding African Americans from? How can you make so as with the committee being the foundation of that, that would eliminate that. And if you have an issue with somebody else that's involved with the movement, you come to the committee and we get it resolved so that we are not looking like squabbling children on public stage. Can we chill out with that? You know what I mean? And if you look at it, it aggravates me so bad to see us making public spectacles of ourselves when we are much better than that. We are so much more than this negative image that we continue to portray, but yet we try and fight. We don't want to be seen as just angry, aggressive, and things like that. But yet we on these reality shows fighting each other and stabbing each other in the back and stuff like that. I'm involved on YouTube. There are sectors of YouTube where people are getting each other's channels shut down for the simple fact that you said my name. You said my name, or you said this, and you said that. Like, if you're black, it doesn't matter how much money you have, how much money you don't have. You are still black. It's still your fight. You're still involved in this. You never evolve out of being black. You can get away from being poor. You can get away from being uneducated. You can get away from being on drugs or being in trouble. You can get right, but you can't never stop being black. You never stop being black. So we can't sit here and argue with each other like it's gonna make me less black or you more black or whatever. We are black, baby. And guess what? It don't matter what I think about you, what you think about me. They see us the same. They see us the same. And while we got this infighting going on, they ain't trying to help you. They ain't trying to help me. So what are you doing? What are you saying? What's your point? Where are your solutions? Can we get back to that, please? Can we get back to real solutions, real initiatives, real actions, real healing? Because we have it. We have it in us. But for whatever reason, we can't get over ourselves. And for whatever reason, let me say it like this. Success is, they say, what is lonely at the top. It's not. It's not. There is room for each and every one of us. If I can eat, I'm going to show you the way to eat. If you learn how to eat, show me the way. I'm not asking for what's on your plate. Show me where you got it from so I can fix my own plate. You see what I'm saying? Like, where is this? Why are we not coming together to help each other up? Everybody's looking like, well, what I'm saying, I got mine out the mud. There is not one individual on the face of this earth that made it anywhere in their life by themselves. From birth to death, you have had interactions that helped you. You have had encounters that helped you. You had people that helped you, whether it was your parents, your friends, your teachers, a boss, a homeboy, a cousin, somebody. You ain't made it nowhere by yourself. So all this, I got it by myself and I got it out the mud or whatever, bruh. And this is true on any facet you're talking about. Period, point blank. And I done ran over my time, y'all. I'm sorry, but I'm very passionate about this, and I really would love to see us come together. I would love to see this conversation being had on a larger scale. If you know of any conversations like this, or let me know. Let me know. I want to be involved. So Queen Royalty said, let me see if I can pull it back up. I live in southern part of Florida, and let me tell you, the Haitian and Cuban communities lift each other up. Indeed, there is no infighting in any other community the way it is in the black community. Now, by human nature, in any community you will have some infighting. But as a whole, the African American community portrays more infighting and disagreement than unity. Period. And For the African American community, if you come for one, then we just look at it like, well, that's them. They ain't messing with me. Like, I was watching a video today about the old lady that was getting kicked in the face on the train in New York City. Like, you got a person recording that, people sharing this, and people sitting around and nobody did anything. Nobody did anything. And this is an elderly lady. She was like 70, 80 years old. And she wasn't even doing anything. It was just doing it for the likes, doing it for World Star or something like that. It was unwarranted. Let me tell you, if you do that to any other community, that community is going to show up. That community is going to show up. You know, there's no individualism in any other communities like it is in the African American community. But anyways, I'm over my time. Thank you so much for watching. I really want to be involved in this dialogue. If you have any solutions, suggestions, any information, please leave it in the comments. Please share this video with anybody that you know that is on real forward moving activism, really trying to see the community move forward and grow. Please let me know, because I really want to participate in that. I live here in McDonough, Georgia, which is in Henry County, about 20 minutes south of Atlanta. And in this county, especially in this city, it is predominantly Black. And I can tell you, baby, we ain't doing nothing as far as trying to move forward. I talk to people on a regular basis. Do you know about HR 40, reparations? What do you think about the Black community? And, you know, we get to a point where, like, we get into these suburbs and get out of the city and act like we didn't come from there. Like, we don't have family that's still there. Like, we don't still have ties there. You know, my vision, my overall hope and dream, period, is to see us progress. I want to be involved. You ain't got to mention my name. Just put me in it. Let me help. Yeah, I want to help us help ourselves. And if you know of anybody else that wants to help us help ourselves, please send them to me, send me to them. Let's connect. Let's link up. Let's heal ourselves. Let's take care of ourselves. This video. And again, I am Erin Bull. Thank you for watching. Y'all have a great Saturday.